In today's video, we're going to be going through and discussing the quest, A Shadow over Hackdirt in the Elder Scrolls 4, Oblivion. We've already covered this quest a long time ago here on this channel, but this time around, I want to deliver a better storytelling experience, as well as offer some different opinions on the lore and background information surrounding this quest, as it is truly one of my favorites in the entire game. We begin in the city of Chorrol. Strolling around, we overhear two NPCs speaking.
Did you hear that Dharma has disappeared?
Oh?
We didn't gain that much from the conversation, but we did receive two new topic notifications. One about someone named Dharma, and the other about a missing daughter. Deciding to inquire further about these topics, we go up to one of the NPCs, a dark elf named Guerrerin Selvilo, and speak with him.
I hope I can help.
We ask him about the missing daughter.
Seedneus is worried sick about her daughter, Dharma. If you think you can help, you'll find her at her shop, Northern Goods and Trade.
We exit the conversation and stroll on over to the Northern Goods and Trade shop in town. Entering inside, we ascend up some stairs and find an Argonian standing at the top. She is Seedneus and the person we need to speak with.
I don't mean to impose, but I'm hoping you can help me. My daughter, Dharma, is missing, and I don't know what to do.
We ask her about her missing daughter.
That's right. My daughter, Dharma, never came back from Hackdirt. I'm dreadfully worried something may have happened to her. Can you help?
We agree to help her find Dharma.
I can't thank you enough for your kindness. She was supposed to make a delivery to a Tira Moslin in Hackdirt, so I would start there. In case it may be useful, she was with Blossom, her horse, I mean. Dharma loves that animal and would never willingly abandon her.
We ask about Dharma.
The best daughter a mother could ask for, kind-hearted and a friend to everyone she meets.
We then ask about Hackdirt.
A rather isolated village south of Chorrol. We do some business with the trader there. Small volume, but she pays well. Normally I make the deliveries, but I wasn't feeling well, so Dharma insisted on going this time. I do hope nothing has happened to her.
And with that, we exit the conversation. Leaving the Northern Goods and Trade, we pop open our map to see where the settlement of Hackdirt is. We notice that it's not too far south of Chorrol, on the edge of the Great Forest, and just before the Imperial Reserve. We see that our closest known location is Molag Bal's Daedric Shrine, so we fast travel over there and run to the village on foot. To recap what Seedneus told us, Dharma was supposed to make a delivery to Hackdirt and then return back home. However, she never did make it back to Chorrol. Her location is unknown, so maybe the folks at Hackdirt can give us a clue as to where she went or what possibly could have happened to her. We arrive at Hackdirt just before dusk. We see that a lot of the buildings on the outside perimeter of the village are burned down and destroyed, which is quite peculiar. We make our way into the center of town and notice there are at least a few structures still standing. One of them is a chapel. We see Moslin's Dry Goods, which is the local general store. We see an inn at the far end, and we also see a few houses still intact as well. As we're walking around, taking in the surroundings, we spot a man wandering around town as well. He's dressed in huntsman gear and wields a mace. We get in closer and see that he's named Natch Pinder. We attempt to speak with Natch.
Let me give you some advice, stranger. Leave. Now. You ain't welcome here.
An odd interaction, we ask him about Hackdirt.
I got nothing to say to you, stranger. Outsiders have always tried to destroy us, but we've always survived.
Exiting the conversation, we shrug off that sideways interaction and decide to start our investigation by heading into Moslin's Dry Goods. As we're about to go inside, we look over our shoulder and see that it almost looks like Natch is following us. We dismiss it though, assuming we're just overthinking it, and go on through the doors. Entering inside, sure enough, Natch Pinder came in with us. Paying little mind to it, we approach the owner of the shop, Tira Moslin, and speak with her.
What?
We ask her about Dharma.
I don't know any Dharma. If you're talking about that cursed Argonian swindler from Chorrol, I'd like to know where she is too. She never showed up. How am I supposed to run a shop without any merchandise? You tell her I want half off on my next delivery.
We then ask Atira about Hackdirt.
We scrape by. Not that we've ever had naught but trouble from outsiders like you. You'd best be moving on if you know what's good for you.
We see her face twist and contort into a hating scowl. We exit the conversation and brush by Natch on our way out. According to Atira, Dharma never even made it to Hackdirt for her delivery. This is definitely a worse situation than we thought. Something must have happened to Dharma out on the road or in the forests along the way to the village. Overall, though, we don't have a very good feeling about this. Before we begin looking in the forests and trails surrounding Chorrol, we pay a visit to the Moslin Inn in town. As we walk forward a bit, we turn around and to our shock, Natch Pinder followed us here as well. It's safe to say that we're not the crazy ones around here. We approach the proprietor, Vlanhonder Moslin, and speak with him.
You're not welcome around here.
We ask him about Dharma.
Who? Nah, I haven't seen any young women around. Even if I had, why would I know anything about her going missing? Not that I'm saying I ever seen her, because I haven't.
We then ask him about Hackdirt.
My grandfather built this place, not that it's any of your business. We've been down, but we got plans to bring back the good old days. You'll see.
Exiting the conversation, we leave with a bad gut feeling. The residents here are extremely unkind to outsiders. They mention that they have big plans for the settlement of Hackdirt, and from the way Vlanhonder reacted to being asked about Dharma, it definitely seems like he's withholding some kind of information from us. We leave the inn and go to the next big structure in town, the chapel, which happens to be called the Chapel of the Brethren for some reason. Entering inside, sure enough, Natch follows us in here, but issues us a warning, more so a threat, that we should leave here right away. We take a quick look around and don't notice anything unique until we get to the front of the chapel and notice a strange book on an altar titled Bible of the Deep Ones. We quickly open it to gaze through it. We see mentions of things called the Deep Ones. The writer of this book is someone named Erlov Moslin, and then the subsequent pages oddly enough have Daedric writing. In any case, we're losing time on finding Dharma, and we're not here for this book and deciphering it, so we close it and leave the chapel, as we can see and hear that Natch is getting more and more aggressive with us for being in here. Something isn't sitting right with us at all about this place. We decided to look around the town a little bit to see what we could find, if there were any clues as to what could have happened to Dharma. Our investigation takes us over to some of the burned down houses on the outskirts of town. This is where we made a crucial discovery to our search. Stowed away among the rubble of one of the homes, behind Moslin's dry goods, was Dharma's horse, Blossom. Seed Neas told us that Dharma does not go anywhere without her horse, and what good reason would she have to leave it here in Hackdirt? With a new break in our search efforts, we return back to Atira Moslin in her shop and attempt to confront her about Blossom.
If you're not careful, the Brethren will have to teach you a lesson.
We're stopped in our tracks as we have no clue what she's talking about. We ask her about the Brethren.
That's none of your concern, outsider.
Well, with being shot down, we ask again about Dharma.
I already told you she never showed up.
We ask her what Blossom is doing behind her store then.
That's my horse. Owned it for years. Now either buy something or get out.
We got shot down by Atira again, but this time we know for a fact she's lying, which means that both us and Dharma are likely in grave danger. Exiting the shop, we see a new person rolling around town. Her name is Marlena Brusiner, and we speak with her.
You're not welcome around here.
We ask her about the Brethren.
One day you'll find out who the Brethren are, and you'll be sorry. Oh yes.
We then ask her about Hackdirt.
Outsiders came and burned our town years ago. Ruined us. But we'll get ours back one day soon.
Marlena is just as hateful and off-putting towards us as everyone else. She even mentions that we'll find out who the Brethren are, and when we do, we'll be sorry. The hour's late, we're exhausted, and we figure we can continue to question everyone tomorrow. We head over to the inn and ask Vlanhonder about a bed for the night.
I guess we've got a room available. 30 gold per night, take it or leave it.
We say we'll take it.
Fine. Take the stairs up to the right, the room on the left. No visitors allowed and no pets.
We pay the gold and make our way up to the room for the night. Entering inside, we're met with quite a shocking sight. The quarters to the right of the room is in complete disarray. Furniture is knocked over, plates, cups, and pots are thrown around, and the bed is shifted on an angle. It almost looks like there was a struggle of some kind in here. It was just then we heard something that spiked our adrenaline. The door to our room opened. We froze and waited. No one comes from around the corner, so we go there first. No one's here with us, but almost certainly someone entered into our room. This is when we lay eyes on the left side quarters, which is orderly and made up rather nice. We look around the right side of the quarters a little bit when, to our surprise, we opened the dresser drawers out of curiosity and received another big break in our search by finding Dharma's diary. Not only was Blossom still being held in town, but this also confirms that Dharma was here in Hackdirt, and she even stayed at this inn, proving Vlanhonder lied through his teeth to us. We decide to read the journal to see if there's anything of note for us. It reads, "This is apparently the diary of a young Argonian named Dharma. Most of the book deals with personal but mundane details of her life in Chorrol. The only interesting entry is the last one. Arrived in Hackdirt after dark. Due to Blossom throwing a shoe on the way, the road was really rough. Hardly more than a track. Doesn't anyone else ever come down here? The trader shop was closed, and she wouldn't come to the door even though I could see a light in the upstairs window. Rude. But at least this inn was open, although the proprietor is kind of creepy. Kept giving me these weird grins when he thought I wasn't looking. Ugh. And what's wrong with his face? Seems like I'm the only one staying here tonight. I didn't see much of the town since it was already dark, but I admit to being kind of spooked. But I'll never admit that to Mother, or she'd never let me go on another one of these deliveries. She thinks I'm just a baby. She would probably say hatchling and in front of my friends too. Remember to ask her about the creepy innkeeper when I get home." Well, the candle is almost burned down. They don't even provide a lantern in this horrible old inn, so I guess I'd better try to get some sleep. If I can even sleep with all the creaking in this old place. I keep thinking I hear footsteps outside the door. I'm so on edge. Grow up, Dar. I'm sure in the morning it will all seem quaint and charming. Good night, diary. It turns out that Dharma did in fact attempt to make her delivery the night she arrived into town, and also had to deal directly with Vlanhonder. Interestingly, she mentions he kept grinning at her while she wasn't looking, almost like the wheels were turning inside of his mind. She also mentioned that his face was strange, and come to think of it, we did notice that everyone here happens to have slightly larger eyes than normal. We leave our room in order to confront Vlanhonder downstairs, but he's nowhere to be found. We return back to our room and decide to confront him tomorrow, as now would be a great time to get some rest. We set our timer for a full night's sleep and initiate our rest. However, it barely goes down by an hour before we're awoken by a terrifying man standing over us. We jump out of bed and see a half-naked man wielding a bludgeon getting ready for the attack. Even more unnerving are his eyes, as they are massive and unproportionate to his face. We take out Goldbrand and begin to hack away at him. Lucky for us, our combat skills far exceed his, and in no time, we manage to cut him down. According to his nameplate, he is a so-called brethren that we've been hearing about. We tiptoe around the corner, blade in hand, as we're unsure if there's anything else waiting for us in this inn. We leave our room in order to speak with Vlanhonder at once. We see that he's still not at his counter, and we even break into his room, which he's not in either. We step outside but don't see any movement or signs of life at all. Going back inside, we decide it best to wait for the next morning, where hopefully we'll be able to find Vlanhonder at his post. We go back up to our room and rest for the remainder of our desired time undisturbed. The next morning, we leave and spot Vlanhonder in the main area. We go up to and speak with him.
"You're not welcome around here."
We ask about Dharma.
"Oh, you meant the Argonian wench. Must have slipped my mind. Yeah, she was here, then she left. I don't know nothing else about it."
We ask why she didn't take any of her things.
"How would I know? Maybe she went crazy and run off into the woods. Now, if you'll excuse me, I got things to do."
Unfortunately, Vlanhonder's lips are sealed tight and he won't speak any more on the matter. Leaving the inn, we see Natch run over to us, looking to follow us around and intimidate us some more. Interestingly though, in the distance by the chapel, we see a man whom we haven't gotten to speak with yet. He walks behind some of the burned down houses and we follow him. Eventually, he stops at the door of what appears to be his house, and this is where we approach and speak with him.
If you're not careful, the Brethren will have to teach you a lesson.
We start off by asking him about the Brethren.
You'd be better off not asking such questions around here.
We then ask him about Dharma.
Shh. We can't talk here. They'll get suspicious. The girl is in danger. Meet me tonight after dark in my house. I'll leave the door unlocked. Don't be late.
We then ask him about Hackdirt.
We don't look kindly on strangers asking questions. If you need a room, try Moslin's Inn. Otherwise, you'd best be moving on.
In a turn of events, someone has actually offered us some information. Chorrol confessed that Dharma is indeed still alive but in grave danger, and that we should return after dark to hear the rest of the story. From his tone, it seems like he wants to make sure that no one else in town knows that he even mentioned this to us. We return back to the inn and go back up to our rented room. We look over our shoulder, and it seems like the locals are becoming more and more suspicious of us, as both Natch and Vlanhonder followed us up here. We go to our bed and rest until midnight, again having a tame and undisturbed sleep. From here, we leave our room, seeing that Natch was likely in here with us the whole time, which is more than creepy. We leave the inn and see that Vlanhonder is gone again. We make our way over to Jiv's house on the southeast side of town and enter inside. Frantically and in a panic, Jiv speaks with us.
You came. Good. I don't have much time. I have to get to the gathering before I missed.
We ask him about Dharma.
You have to believe me. I didn't know what they were planning. They want to bring back the Deep Ones. I thought I did too, but she's so innocent. They've got her down in the caverns. They're going to sacrifice her, you understand? You've got to save her. Here, take this key. It'll open any of the trapdoors down to the caves. Every house in town has one. The one in Moslin's Inn is your best bet, nearest where she's being held, the middle of the night, when everyone's at the gathering. Good luck. You will save her, won't you? I gotta go now.
We ask Jiv about the Deep Ones.
I don't know much. Never seen them myself. Our grandfathers first found them, I think, digging in the mines. They helped us, made us rich, but there was a terrible price. Blood. And worse.
We ask about the Brethren.
Those of us who've changed the most, we call the Brethren. Live down in the caves, to be nearer the Deep Ones. They don't like the sunlight much. Dangerous, too. You'll want to avoid them if you can help it.
We ask about Hackdirt.
I was only a boy when the soldiers came. We hid, vowed revenge, but the Deep Ones never came back. Atira, she's the one who found them old books, learned the runes, how to speak them again. But they want blood, she says, or they'll not help us.
Finally, we ask about the caverns.
Caves run all beneath the town, some natural, some dug over the years since we found the Deep Ones. Every house has an entrance now.
We exit the conversation. No wonder we haven't been able to find Dharma. She's been held underneath the city in some caverns. According to Jiv, she's going to be sacrificed to appease the so-called Deep Ones in order to bring them back. Time is of the essence, so we have to get down there as soon as possible. We go back inside of Moslin Inn and look around for trapdoors. We wander around to the bar area and spot a wooden hatch in the corner of the room. We approach, unlock it with a key, and descend down. Almost immediately, as we're turning around, we're spotted by a Brethren. He pulls out his bludgeon and comes running over at us. We face him in close combat, and similar to the one we killed in our rented room, we took him down pretty easily. Everything is still, and all we can hear is the howling of the cave. We see some bones on the ground and approach them, when all of a sudden, we hear a bone-chilling noise. Whatever noise that is, we've never heard it before and makes us want to get out of here even faster. We turn around and notice a metal cage. Inside of it, we see a young Argonian woman.
Please, let me out of here. You must help me escape. I think these creatures plan to do something horrible to me tonight.
We tell her that we'll let her out.
Thank you. Hurry, we need to get out of here, quick.
We ask her about her mother.
My mother owns Northern Goods and Trade in Chorrol.
We then ask her about Hackdirt.
These creatures kidnapped me from my room in the inn while I was sleeping. I don't know why, but I'd rather not find out.
Confirming that this is indeed Dharma, it's time to get her out of her cage. We see the cage key sitting on a stool and pick it up. Before we let her out of there, however, something draws us to quickly explore the caverns. We quietly sneak away from Dharma and head around the corner. We see another brethren walking through the tunnels and we purposefully catch their attention. He pulls out his bludgeon and we begin combat. We take care of him rather quickly and continue to sneak around. Very soon, we get into an open area of the cavern and spot at least half a dozen people standing around. This is more than likely the gathering that Jiv was speaking about, as we can make out a few of the residents of Hackdirt here, as well as some more brethren. All the meanwhile, the growling from within continues. We decide that now it's best to leave and get out of this place. As we return back to the cage, we see another brethren has showed up, and he's standing fairly close to Dharma. We engage with him in combat as well and take him out. We go to the cage and unlock the door.
Thank you. Let's get out of here.
Dharma gets low and we both begin to sneak out. We can see from the bones in her cage that she was more than likely not the first prisoner here, and something tells us she won't be the last. We ascend the ladder back up to Moslin's Inn and leave through the front door back out into Hackdirt.
Have you seen my horse? I can't leave her here.
Dharma wants to get to Blossom before we can make our escape. She goes through the rubble of the destroyed houses and finds her horse behind Moslin's dry goods. She mounts Blossom and we tell her to follow us.
Sounds good. I'm right behind you.
With that, together we run off north in hopes of reaching Chorrol without being spotted by anyone from Hackdirt, the Brethren, or even whatever roams the wilds of Cyrodiil at this hour. Once we were far enough away from the settlement, Dharma speaks with us.
Thank you for rescuing me. My mother will be so pleased when we arrive back in Chorrol safe and sound. Let's go.
It's now that she goes on her own back to the city. However, even though she's on horseback, she goes at an incredibly slow pace, leaving her open and vulnerable. We decide to force a wait until daytime in hopes that she could make it back to Chorrol faster. However, after our wait is done, we see that she not only made zero progress going north, she actually abandoned Blossom and began walking on foot, which was rather strange considering we were told she would never leave her horse. She appears to be moving faster on foot than on horseback, however, so we force another wait to see what happens. When it's done, we see that she's nowhere to be found, which likely means she's back in Chorrol. We fast travel over to the city and make our way over to Northern Goods and Trade. Entering inside, we see Dharma and her mother, Cydneus, standing at the top floor of the shop. Speaking with Dharma is brief but sounds like this.
My hero. My mother owns this shop. She would be glad of your business.
We then turn over to Cydneus and begin to speak with her.
I will never forget your brave rescue of my daughter. What can I do for you today?
We tell her about her missing daughter.
Have you found her? Is she safe? Thank you. Thank you. I can never repay you for your gift of my daughter's life, but you have my friendship and gratitude to the end of my days.
We receive a notification that our mercantile skill has increased, now bringing it up to the apprentice level. Turning back to Dharma and engaging in conversation with her, she says some interesting dialogue to us.
I'm always glad to see you, handsome.
We leave Northern Goods and Trade, and with that, have successfully finished the quest, A Shadow over Hackdirt. However, there are a lot of unanswered questions left with regards to Hackdirt itself, the Brethren, and the Deep Ones. So, let's see what conclusions we can come to. Fast traveling back to the settlement once all is said and done, things are a little different around here now. For starters, some of the residents run away from us. Take, for example, Vlanhond or Moslin. On the other hand, we're able to speak with Jiv, and he says the same dialogue that he told us before with regards to saving Dharma.
I can't be seen talking to you. I've done what I can, now it's up to you.
Natchpinder reacts the same to us as well.
I'm waiting. Leave me alone.
However, entering inside of Moslin's dry goods, Atira reacts the same way as Vlanhonder and begins to run away from us. As we leave, we see Natch now running away, but this is likely incited by Marlena chasing after us with a mace in her hand. Brucinner begins attacking us and even brings along more brethren from the caverns. We take a better look at them in the sunlight and see that their most obvious off-putting trait is the way their eyes are shaped and sized in comparison to their face. We defeat all 3 of our attackers and move along. None of the houses or private quarters offer anything unique to the lore of Hackdirt. All we can see is that most of them are disheveled and not taken care of. While exploring Marlena's house, we were attacked by 2 more brethren. As pointed out by the unofficial Elder Scrolls pages, when crimes are committed here in Hackdirt, it's dealt with by the Brethren as opposed to the Legion, as Hackdirt has a rather darker history with the Empire. We go down into the caverns once more, but this time they're completely empty. We don't see any settlers of Hackdirt, the Brethren, or any signs of life at all for that matter. We do continue to hear growling coming from the depths of this cavern, however, which is still just as unnerving. Exiting the cavern and going over to the chapel, we wander over to the Bible of the Deep Ones and take it. From here, we ascend up onto the roof, wait for nighttime, and go back down into the chapel to see what's exactly going on. We see the settlers gathered, and immediately our presence is taken as a hostility, and we've alarmed everyone in here. Natch comes over to attack us, while Atira runs for the exit, and Jiv, as well as Vlanhonder, are completely startled and practically frozen in place. We kill everyone in here, track down Atira, and kill her as well. Now, as it would seem, Hackdirt can finally be put to rest, as no one else is alive in these parts. Now, let's start off with the village of Hackdirt itself. We've picked up through dialogue clues and notes from the Bible more or less what happened here. During the Third Era, Irlov Moslin, Atira and Vlanhonder's grandfather, came to Hackdirt to settle it as a mining town due to the natural caves that run underneath it. While the original settlers were digging, they came across a group of beings called the Deep Ones, whom, according to what we've read from the Bible, are likely Daedric in nature given that their official language uses Daedric runes for its scripture. As time went on, the settlers began worshipping the Deep Ones, dedicating the chapel to them, and even living underground to be closer to them, which is where the Brethren come in. The Brethren have devolved over time to become these brutish, animalistic, big-eyed beings who avoid the sunlight and attack or abduct outsiders to bring them down to the cavern as sacrifices. We can encounter them in multiple different ways. One is by sleeping in Moslin's Inn. 2 is by committing a crime in Hackdirt, which will result in multiple of them being sent up to attack us, and 3 is by exploring the caverns beneath the village. For the most part, they all seem to be Imperials. In fact, everyone in this settlement seems to be an Imperial. And as for the Brethren, they all wear sackcloth pants and wield a bludgeon, but that's about it. They have a really amazing ability to detect us even if we're really proficient at sneaking, and have the powers of Night Eye, resist frost for 50, and a weakness to fire for 30. Beyond that, there isn't much more to be said about the Brethren. Continuing with the lore of Hackdirt, Irlov Moslin made contact with the chief of the Deep Ones and came to a deal of sorts with them. In exchange for riches, good fortune, and prosperity, the settlers of Hackdirt would sacrifice innocent people to the Deep Ones. This went on for some time before things got completely out of hand and likely resulted in a lot of missing persons reports. Word got out about what goes on at Hackdirt, and that's when the Legion came in, destroyed the village, and not quite confirmed, but likely killed Irlov Moslin in the process, as he's never mentioned again after these events. Ever since then, their contact with the Deep Ones has been broken. This timeline took place around 30 years ago, and it seems as though rather recently, Atira found the Bible of the Deep Ones and managed to learn about the runes and how to read them. Most interestingly too, is that Jiv mentions there are multiple books. However, we've only managed to find one. Where the other books are located and the information that exists within them are unknown. The finding of the books was likely the catalyst that led to Dharma's abduction, as the citizens were now ready to begin sacrificing again to the Deep Ones in exchange for good fortune. Now, let's talk about the Bible of the Deep Ones. Opening it up, the only part that makes sense is the beginning. It reads, "Given to me by the chief of the Deep Ones. He taught me his language and his runes. This is the ancient lore of his people, which we shall follow from now until forever. Signed in the presence of 12 witnesses, Erlov Moslin, 3rd Era, year 345. Then, the subsequent text happens to be written in Daedric runes. Now, flipping over to the unofficial Elder Scrolls pages for a translation, it happens to sound like gibberish and comes across just as confusing. However, digging a little deeper, it turns out that this text is actually an excerpt from another piece of literature called Nagasta Kavada Kavakis, written by someone named Nagasta. Now, this literature is written in the exact same gibberish. However, there's a reason for it. It turns out that this is actually the language of a beast folk race called the Slode. Back when I originally made my first video on Hackdirt, I had no idea what the Slode were. And for those of you who also don't know what they are, a quick rundown is that they appear as beastly, slug-like intelligent creatures. They hail from the kingdoms of Thras, which is southwest of the province of Tamriel, and have the ability to grow very large in size. There really isn't that much mention of them throughout the games, although we may hear about the Slode through their texts, literature about them, or through word of mouth. It just so happens that one Slode we do get to see in the games is this so-called Nagasta, which can be found in the Elder Scrolls Redguard on Stros Makai. Something imperative to know about the Slode is that they're known to not be a benevolent and moral race. In fact, they're quite known for the opposite, being cited as horrible and dangerous creatures, known for releasing a plague upon Tamriel, which caused the death of half the population, and also their culture is rooted in necromancy. Now, it would seem that the Slugmen of Thras could more than certainly be these beings known as the Deep Ones. The Bible uses text from one of their books, they demand sacrifices of other Tamrielic races, and potentially for the use of necromancy. Assuming that the growling we hear in the caverns beneath Hackdirt are coming from the Deep Ones, this could be the guttural noises coming from a Slode that has grown very large in size, and is maybe considered to be the chieftain. The one thing that stands out to me though is that the Bible mentions that the language and writing of the Deep Ones is Daedric in nature, which it's cited in sources that the Slode are not religious and do not pray to the Aedra or the Daedra. However, the unofficial Elder Scrolls pages does outline that the Slode are not above aligning with the Daedra if it suits them for their personal gain. This is where I begin to think that unless these are Slode who have branched off from their kind and are acting alone, which is always a possibility, maybe these select Slode have sided with a Daedric prince in hopes that everyone benefits from the situation. Now, as for which Daedric god, it could honestly be any. In my previous video, I specifically called out Clavicus Vile on the basis that he loves to make pacts with mortals, but it's true that most Daedric princes enjoy the same thing. However, a further development in favor of Clavicus Vile being behind this is the fact that Nagasta, the Slode whose text is referenced in the Bible of the Deep Ones, actually served this Daedric prince. It's also cited that Nagasta would capture souls and offer them to his patron, Daedric Lord Clavicus Vile, which certainly could be what's happening here at Hackdirt. However, Nagasta died a long time ago in the Second Era, so he can't be a member or even the chieftain of the Deep Ones. And it is true that Nagasta gained a lot of popularity after his death, so maybe he had some followers in his wake striking deals with Clavicus Vile, or enacting these bargains in the name of Nagasta himself. Another Daedric prince that enters into my mind would be Molag Bal, as he has an affinity for necromancy, just like the Slode, whose culture is completely based around it. It is said that the various cults who worship Baal sacrifice unwilling civilians in his name, and often used dark magic such as necromancy to do it. Maybe Molag Bal brokered a deal with the Slode, who, in turn, made a deal with Hackdirt. In exchange for sacrifices in the name of necromancy towards the Slode and Molag Bal, the citizens of Hackdirt would gain riches and fortune beyond their belief. It's said too that the Legion encourages anyone who spots the Slode in Tamriel to notify them, as they're considered a massive threat and must be eliminated immediately. The Legion doesn't really take action like this towards bandits, necromancers, or other creatures in Cyrodiil, as we would know through the other quests we have to do in the game. Maybe a Slode was spotted and the village was sacked by the Legion because of it in Hackdirt. Regardless of our assumptions, we don't receive any concrete answers either way, so we're just left guessing. The one thing we can say with almost a certainty, however, is that this entire quest is a reference to H.P. Lovecraft's story, The Shadow over Innsmouth. In the story, a young man travels to an isolated town in New England. This town has superstitious overtones, was once prosperous and filled with fortune, but has since been run down and neglected. Outsiders are treated with evasiveness and hostility. The citizens of Innsmouth are noted to have distinctly fish-like features, including bulgy big eyes. A lot of them are also part of a cult called the Esoteric Order of Dagon. The narrator finds someone in town who tells him the legend of the Deep Ones, a race of immortal fish-like creatures who were offered human sacrifices. The narrator must sleep in Innsmouth for the night at the local inn as the bus they were on breaks down. Upon sleeping, something tries to enter inside of his room. He escapes and is the victim of a town-wide manhunt. He eventually comes face to face with the Deep Ones, who are essentially fish-like humanoids. He faints, wakes up unharmed and alone, and is able to escape Innsmouth. Returning back home, he finds out that his family tree has roots in the town and that he is actually related to several citizens who have transformed into Deep Ones. Time passes, and he sees that he's slowly transforming into one of the creatures himself. He battles with the idea of living, but eventually decides to go and be with his kind in their underwater world. The Deep Ones serve an all-powerful being called Cthulhu. We can almost certainly see the parallels between this story and A Shadow over Hackdirt. Could the Slode be the Deep Ones? Could the Brethren and citizens of Hackdirt be the Esoteric Order of Dagon? Could a Daedric prince, possibly Clavicus Vile or Molag Bal, be considered Cthulhu? I think these are questions worth asking, but answers we may never get. Until next time, keep on adventuring.